Question first and see what we've got. It says, my husband suffered an injury in a wreck which may prevent him from returning to work. He is still in physical therapy and there are many details to be ironed out about his condition and the medical claim, etc. If we decide to hire a lawyer for what happened in the car wreck and that claim, could it have an adverse effect on a future disability claim? And that's from Tina. And Tina, we don't know if you're in Bay County or Washington County or Florida or Alabama. By the way, Mike, we're now simulcasting in Alabama. I don't know if you know that yet or not, but we're going to fill you in on that.
Congratulations.
But, yeah, well, thank you. Well, you're going to be part of it tonight. So, Tina, here we go. So will it have an effect if you file a claim on an automobile accident with a disability claim, and I'm presuming it has to do with Social Security disability? And the question is no. In fact, it might help a little bit. One of the key criteria for Social Security disability claims is that your husband has sustained a disability that has prevented him from gainful or meaningful employment. And so that kind of evidence actually supports and bolsters your husband's claim in the event that there is a disability case to be filed. And it doesn't happen automatically. It takes a period of months and sometimes weeks, sometimes even years for that Social Security disability claim to go through. So you need to go ahead and start that process at least with an attorney on the automobile accident case, and then get somebody involved, somebody like Mike Reeder who does Social Security disability that can help you through that process, Tina. So I hope that answered your question. Mike Reeder, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. It's great to be back.
You've been on the show before, but I don't know that you've been on since we've been simulcasting up in Alabama. And of course with Alabama, we pick up Georgia as well. So let's give yourself an introduction. Tell us about yourself. Tell us what you do in the practice of law and how long you've done it. And I'll ask you a few more questions about your background that I happen to know about.
Well, it's good to be up in Alabama, Roll Tide. My wife went to Tuscaloosa for school. I retired from the Navy, went to law school at Florida State, makes me a Seminole. And then started practicing law. I have been doing Social Security disability since the beginning for, well, about 25 years. Among other things that I have done in the past, mostly civil stuff. And then I'm now just helping people getting on disability. I pretty well know the ins and outs of the administration and that judicial process, and it's an administrative law process, and it's been pretty good.
Yeah. Well, you've been quite successful at it. You're now in a position where you're not retired, but you're slowing down a little bit in your practice, right?
Yeah, well, I am. It's slowing down a bit. I'd like to call it semi-retired now. I'm still taking cases on and referring cases that if I hit my overload.
I got you. I got you. But you're still practicing Social Security law, so let's kind of go over this a little bit, and let me ask you a little bit about your background. Tell us a little bit about your hobbies. I learned something tonight about some of your hobbies. What's your big hobby right now?
It's gardening.
Yeah?
I've been into gardening for about 10 years and have expanded my garden efforts, and I'm trying to learn how to do the horticultural thing, which is a learning process. You're just not dropping seeds in the dirt and hoping it grows. There's a whole lot that goes on, including how to amend the soils and how to set up irrigation.
Yep. Well, I'm not a gardener, but from time to time, my wife and I will grow tomato plants or pepper plants on the back porch to try to keep them going. But you've got all sorts of things in your garden. You've got lettuce and kale and peppers, collard greens now.
I'll have peppers. I have sweet potatoes is a big part of my garden because the sweet potatoes are so prolific here in North Florida. And actually all throughout the South. They grow great. They love the heat. They love the dry. They just keep growing.
Keep growing.
A couple Everglade tomatoes I found are native to the Everglades, they say, and it's a weed. It's the only tomato plant you cannot kill.
Okay, well, I might have to try that because I like the Better Boys and the beefsteak tomatoes,
yeah,
and they don't do quite as well in this climate and in this soil either. So.
Yeah, these are small tomatoes.
Okay.
But the bush, and it's a bush, and they'll put hundreds out.
Oh, wow.
At one time.
Okay, well, see, learn a little bit more. Now, tell us a little bit about your military career, and then we'll get started talking about disability.
Okay. I, enlisted in the Navy in 1973.
Okay.
And I started out as an electrician's mate. Then I went to underwater demolition SEALs training. Was a frogman for 9 years. Got my degree going to school at night, off duty. And then became an aviator. I piloted helicopters and jets.
So you see, we're dealing with somebody in Americana that you kind of really need to know a little bit about, and you don't take the gentlemanly farmer for granted about many of the things that you've done in your life. I mean, it's been a remarkable career at all the things that you've done, Mike.
It's been great. I've had a lot of good support from my friends and my family, and lucky to have some good mentors. And so I've tried to also give that back by mentoring other younger attorneys over the years.
Well, let's talk about disability for a few moments. A lot of people think that it's an automatic safety net that it doesn't matter whether or not you've worked or that you've worked part-time, different things, but you and I know that in order to file a Social Security disability claim, and let's talk about the disability side of it to start with, because there's two different sides of Social Security. With disability, how does one get that? How does one earn the opportunity to have a disability claim? And I say earn not in the right that you've suffered a disease or you've suffered some type of injury where you're disabled from working, but what do you have to do to be eligible for Social Security disability claims?
To be eligible, there's two Social Security programs that are administered by the agency. One is supplemental security income, and one is disability insurance benefits, Title 16 and Title 2 respectively. And Title 16, which is supplemental security income, is a need-based program. That means you're going to have a disabling condition that would make you eligible for disability, but you kind of are indigent, impoverished, you don't have a work history that you're going to be able to go back on. The other program, disability insurance benefits, is where you pay into the system like we all do all of our life when we work and pay our Social Security tax, and there's a look back period. If you have 20 qualifying quarters, which means in that quarter you made $1,850 in the quarter, that's a check in that quarter, and then if you have within the last 40 quarters, 20 qualifying quarters from the time you get disabled, then you're eligible for disability insurance benefits.
Wow. So let's say that somebody they're working, and they meet that requirement. They've been working all of their life, and all of a sudden they have a stroke, a heart attack, or some other type of medical condition that really kind of prevents them from working. But their employer is a benevolent employer and says, "Hey, why don't you stay on? I'll continue to pay you, while we try to sort through this and work through it." But as time goes on, somebody's disabled for 3 months or 4 months. Right. What happens? Kind of take us through a situation like that, Mike.
Well, and I do see that there are times when a good employer is going to kind of carry a person for a while. And if you are basically making substantial gainful activity, which is $1,550 a month gross income, you're not eligible to apply for disability.
All right, hold on a second. You said how much per month?
$1,550.
That's $18,000 a year,
yep.
Roughly. Right. $19,000 a year.
Right.
So if you're making $19,000 a year, you're not going to qualify for the disability benefit or the social.
That is correct.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So all right. Well, that doesn't sound like much money. I mean, I know that.
Right.
That's if you're 40 or 50 years old and you're trying to survive and you're trying to survive off $1,500 a month. I mean, it's difficult to do that, right?
Well, your Social Security benefit's not going to be all that much either. Usually, for most people, it's averaging around $1,500, $2,000 a month.
Right.
Now, if there comes a time you're just no longer working and you're not able to work, the first consideration is whether you have a medically determinable severe impairment that's going to last for a year or be expected to last for a year.
All right, so what's that terminology again? Medically
determinable severe impairment.
Okay, so you have to be severely impaired.
You got to be severely impaired, and it's got to be in a medical record.
Okay, so if somebody just kind of takes himself out and says, "I can't do it. I'm not going to do it," that's not going to work, right?
Yep. You got to have a diagnosis from a doctor, and then you're going to have kind of medical confirmation on the severity.
Okay.
Of the injury.
Give us an example of the severity, because I don't think a lot of people appreciate that.
If we have an injury or a back condition.
Right, backs. I mean, automobile accidents, neck and back, all right?
Neck and back.
All right, or shoulder injury, whatever it may be.
So let's say you have a back injury, a degenerative disc disease, and where you have a lot of spinal stenosis and you have an impingement of a nerve.
Right.
coming, and then you have, you can hit a listing with your back if you have a deformity or degeneration of your back with narrowing of the spinal canal, and it's impinging a nerve, and you're not able to ambulate without the use of both your hands, like a walker, crutches, 2 canes.
Got you.
If you got that, then that's where you make the listing, kind of the blue book of impairments, and you're going to get your disability there. You don't have to go through the whole thing, but that's very rare, actually.
Right.
Most people, let's say, a lot of times I have mechanics. Guys they've been car mechanics, they've been bending over and jumping under.
Carpet layers, mechanics, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
These guys, and it's very, very bad. It's hard on your back. And after a while, they just can't do it anymore. And they're going to have degenerative disc disease. They're going to have bad vertebrae. But it's not so bad that they hit the listing because they can ambulate without the use of, canes.
Gotcha.
But they still can't do the job anymore. And they're 55 years old. This is very common. You get to that age, which is in my rearview mirror, but you're not able to.
Mine too. Yeah.
You're not able to do the job for the physical impairment, and then you're going to have to go through the process of having your doctor say that you got the problem, have an MRI. You'll go and make your applications. You go in your initial consideration for Disability Determination Service, which is actually part of the Florida Department of Health, who contracts with Social Security to do this job. And you're going to get evaluated there. They're going to get all your medical records. They're going to review it. They might send you to a consultative examination with their doctor, and then have a medical review with their doctor, and they're going to make a determination what your residual functional capacity is, kind of what level of work you can do. And then they're going to say, well, most likely they're going to say, well, you can still do that job, because the first time up they shoot almost everybody down.
Yeah. Let's hold that thought for just a moment. Sure. I think we've got a good stopping point here. Let's take a break. Folks, we're talking about Social Security disability claims, supplemental income claims, things of that nature. Phone lines are open, 850-392-1544, or you can email us at lawcall@wnbb.com. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few moments. Welcome back to Law Call. Tonight we're talking about Social Security disability claims, supplemental income claims. And Mike, we were at the process where you'd kind of gone through the process, but how long does a claim take in the Social Security system? Let's say that somebody goes online and they fill out their form online, and how long does it typically take somebody to actually ultimately get their benefits?
There's going to be 3 steps.
Okay.
If you make your initial application, it goes through a review. Like I said, they're going to gather information, medical information. I hate to tell people this, but it's taken, the first step's taken about a year.
Oh, goodness.
Since COVID, that part slowed down a whole lot. It used to take about 6 months to get through the first phase. If you're denied there, then you turn around and request for reconsideration. It's like an appeal, and you go through the same process with the same office. It's just going to be a different individual. You can have a different caseworker. You can have different eyes on it. And if you have a lawyer, your lawyer should be writing a brief to them, or a good letter brief explaining why you should be disabled. And then that's going to be the exact same process, and it's going to take just about as long, about a year. And they still deny most of the cases at that point.
So you got 2 denials at this point.
You got 2 denials, and then you request a hearing with an administrative law judge in Tallahassee.
Okay. Now, do people have to go to Tallahassee for that in this area?
No, we're doing them on the phone now. Since COVID, we've been doing it on the phone, or they use video conferencing.
Yes.
And that takes about 4 to 6 months to get in front of the judge. It's a lot faster than it used to be. Now, it used to be the opposite. It used to be initial reconsideration took about 6 months, and it would take a year to year and a half to get to the judge. But for some reason, it's flip-flopped, and this all happened when they started doing COVID. The question's going to be now after you get through the judge, and then he's going to make a decision, and that takes 3 months to get a decision, because that's a slow process. The process is slow. They don't have enough workers. With disability determination service, I was told by their managers that there's a big turnover. And everybody started working at home in COVID, and I think they got a lot less efficient.
I got you. You're talking about a process that could take, you just outlined a 2.5-year process.
Yes.
And you can't work. I mean, because if you make that $1,500 a month, that could kick you out.
I've had people with great pain have to go back to work and just cry every day and go home. It's just horrible.
Wow. We've got an email question here from Thomas. Thomas has an email question about Social Security or SSDI. Does the money I have in my bank and my other assets affect whether I can get SSDI? Now, that's the supplemental income, correct? SSDI, or is that disability?
Well, it depends on what people are calling it.
Okay. Let's correct me and correct Thomas, whatever it may be.
Disability insurance is where you have been paying into the system.
Okay. So this would be if Thomas, this is not the one that's income based then.
Right.
Okay.
And you can have all the money in the world.
Yeah.
It's not need based. Now, if it's supplemental security income.
Right. Then that's the need based.
That's the need based, and yes, they would. You can only have $2,000 of asset and still be eligible for supplemental security income, or $3,000 worth of asset if you're married, and that does not include your homestead or one car if you use the car for family support. But you're not allowed to have 2 cars, even if you're...
Right, and that 2,000, 3,000 level has been that way for how many years?
As far as I can remember.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like the PIP insurance. It's been $10,000 for 55 years. And now you can't even sneeze in an emergency department and not spend $10,000. Here, you can't work, you can't do anything, but you can have less than $2,000 worth of assets. $3,000 if you're married, and you're supposed to survive on that. And then you got SSDI that might not pay.
They want you to spend that money down.
Wow. One other quick question that I've got for Thomas. I'll ask Thomas this, or on behalf of Thomas. We talk about insurance. You go on Medicare, you get Medicare insurance, or you go on disability. Your SSDI. Are you eligible for Medicare at any point in time?
If you're on supplemental security income, you're eligible for Medicaid as soon as you're found disabled.
All right. So that's the reason for the income-based. Because now you're a state benefit program with Medicaid. We've got another email question. Let's go to that real fast. My daughter was hospitalized on May 8th with a heart condition. While in the hospital, the case manager filed her disability claim. I want to ask you about that too. She's 23 years old and didn't have much work history, so she was denied getting any type of disability. We're still waiting for the decision on disability insurance. Can we appeal the SSI decision because of her age and because she's not able to work at all now? So that's from Jesse. So that's a good question. May 8th, last year, because we're not May 8th of this year. Sounds like she's been disabled because of a heart condition for coming up on a year. And she's a young person. She doesn't have, she's 23 years old, and presumably was in high school at 18.
Yeah, so SSI, it's not going to matter on how old you are.
This is the supplemental income.
Security, okay. Yes. With disability insurance benefit, it does, when you're younger, the look back period is shorter.
Okay.
So she might be able to. Now, I always appeal, especially the first time up, because disability determination service is just triggered to deny.
Got you. So Jesse, probably what you need to do is you've got Mr. Reeder here. He's an expert in this area. Give him a call tomorrow and see if he can help you out with the appeal. And we're actually going to talk about that. We're going to take our final break. We're going to come back and talk about how Social Security lawyers get paid. So stay tuned here. We'll be back in just a few moments. Good evening and welcome back to the final segment here. I'm talking about disability claims, and folks, we understand that we got a run of emails, and unfortunately we've run out of time with the show, but we'll be sure to answer those questions for you tomorrow, going back to you by email. So one final kind of segment to ask here is, how does a Social Security lawyer get paid?
Well, there's a provision in the code that allows us to get paid with the back pay.
Okay.
We only get paid if we win.
Right.
If we win, we can collect a percentage of the back pay to a maximum of 25%.
Got you. And is there a maximum on what that could be too?
Yes, $7,200.
Okay, so folks, if you've got a disability claim and you need a lawyer, the lawyer works for free, meaning they do all of this work for you, and only at the end, and only if they win, do they get paid from the federal government. So,
right.
So it comes out of your portion, but they get paid by the federal government at that point.
Yeah.
Yes. So, if you've got a disability claim that needs an appeal, disability claim that needs to be filed, you need to reach out to somebody like Mike Reeder. And of course, he's our expert here tonight, and that's who we want to have. And we've got a couple people that you're going to have to call tomorrow, Mike, so that's good. Yeah. We got a couple of shout outs. Got a special night tonight for those of you who are watching. Those of you who follow me on Facebook, you know that it is my anniversary. So 29 years ago, me and my lovely bride got married. There she is. She looks the same. It looks like now I've eaten 1.5 or 2 times me. We've got the then and now picture coming up. And here are we now. There she is. She hasn't changed a bit. She's still lovely and as beautiful as ever. So shout out to my beautiful bride, my Pam. Now we've got a couple other shout outs. We've got Gary Starr, who actually has a birthday coming up. Happy birthday to you, Gary. I think that's coming up tomorrow. We've got Rick at the Marlin who's watching. Rick, thank you so much for watching. I'm sorry I haven't been in a while. Yeah, I don't know if you've seen the lunch with Larry, but I've been on the road and traveling. We're going to try to get back to that. We got Mrs. Pam, Miss Pam Myers is watching, and we got Johnny who's watching, Johnny Ellis who's watching from up there in Marianna. You got some folks to give a shout out to? You got anybody you want to talk to here?
And congratulations on your anniversary.
Yeah, thank you.
That's an accomplishment.
Yes.
I'm going to give a shout out to my wife Vera and my legal assistant Rachel.
And I tell you, Vera has been your #1 legal assistant for a long time.
Long time.
And she stayed with you a long time as well.
Oh yeah.
Now, does she enjoy the gardening that we talked about?
No.
That's how you stay. That's how you have a happy marriage. You're outside working the garden, and she's doing other things.
She enjoyed me bringing the food in.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Well, folks, again, apologize. We kind of ran short here tonight. The emails came in. We'll be sure to get to you off air. We'll get to you tomorrow, and if not, you can give us a call. We've got very similar numbers. Why don't you? We're got your number. It's going to come up. But what is your telephone number?
850-277-0777.
And ours is 850-215-7777. Lots of sevens. Sevens are wild. But also you can just email us at lawcall@wmbb.com, and we'll be sure to get it over to Mike in the event that it's a disability question. We'll make sure that he gets that first thing tomorrow morning. Folks, it's been a great evening. It's been a very educational show. Mike, glad to have you back on.
Well, thank you very much. And I really like being here, so I appreciate the opportunity.
We're going to invite you back, and except now, when you have a bounty of vegetables, I'm a big veg eater, so you're going to have to bring a basket for me. Okay.
Easy day.
Folks, we've enjoyed it. Thank you so much. You know, y'all make the show with the calls and the questions and the emails, and we appreciate you very much. This is it. So everybody, y'all have a good evening, and we'll be back same time, same place, same stations next week. We'll see you on Law Call.